Hey guys, this is John Davis, and I want to talk about feelings-oriented decisions, or the foolishness of feelings. Feelings-oriented decisions are foolish. Always. They may be fun. The foolishness might be safe. I feel like going for a walk. Alright, and that's safe. Go. In this case, reason and logic go hand in hand with feelings. But if you're making a decision and reason and logic, all feelings aside, say one thing, but feelings and passion say another thing, depending on how strong the feelings are or how passionate one is, most people choose the easy path, which is the path most associated with their emotion. So now get this. A person who's motivated by his feelings and passions is someone who's living naturally. It's natural to do what you feel. This doesn't necessarily mean that it's wise. It's just natural. You have a brain and a body. Now go do as your body says to do. This is why the Bible refers to the flesh. A lot of Christians beat that word flesh up to specifically mean one thing, and that is sin. I personally don't agree with that. I think when the Bible says flesh, it means this stuff here, this stuff. I think basically when the Bible refers to the flesh, what it's saying is people who make decisions based on what this thing is telling them, they sin. They are sinning. Not necessarily everything, but if they're basically a slave to what this thing is telling them, then they end up sinning, as opposed to using this thing as a messenger of information and making a wise decision based on the information. So, taking for example the 7 deadly sins. There's nothing in the Bible that talks about the 7 deadly sins. It's not in the Bible. There's no 7 deadly sins in the Bible. That's a Catholic Church thing that they made up. But they're all sins, and they're well-known ones. So let's talk about those as examples of feelings-oriented decisions. Number 1, lust. Number 2, gluttony. Number 3, greed. Number 4, sloth. Number 5, wrath. Number 6, envy. Number 7, pride. So those are 7 deadly sins. If we expand on those, number 1, lust. We all know what lust is. Perhaps we're all guilty of doing it. It's when the eyes feed on the mind, and the mind fixates on what the eyes are seeing and desire what's seen, specifically regarding another human being. Obviously we're talking about sexual desire here. So now here's the thing. In heaven, there's no gender. There's no need to procreate. Sex is purely an earthly thing. It's a biological feature of our bodies that enables us to reproduce. And so the desire for sex is the built-in component to motivate us to go on about that activity, which is procreation. That's how the human race continues to be. So the feelings are natural, but in the wrong timing, or with the wrong subject, or in the wrong setting, the motive to act on those feelings may not be wisdom. Makes sense? So like, case in point, this is an extreme example: rape. A man sees another woman walking down the street and lusts her. He's feeling something. He's passionately feeling something. And if he goes and acts on those feelings right then and there, that's rape, right? It's not wisdom. It's an extreme example, but it is an example. It's not wisdom. Okay, so number 2, gluttony. This is what I myself have been guilty of. It's different for us in our generation and culture because the availability of food is so plentiful. But hundreds of years ago, food was such a burden to hunt and gather and prepare that anyone who ate a lot of it made little of those efforts. Somebody went through a lot of work for that. And a fat guy eating it all up and making himself sick with all this excess of food, essentially abused whoever it was that did all that work, whether it was women or slaves or whoever. So getting fat was his shame, or it was his pride in saying, I have the power or the money, the wealth to make this happen. I'm able to eat and consume the output of other people's work. I think I'm guessing that's really the history of why gluttony is so wrong. But obviously, doing wrong to our bodies by overeating and getting fat is a sin against our bodies as well. It steals our strength. It makes us unattractive. But even that aside, it robs us of our health, of our proper health. So I'm guilty of this, and I want to improve on this area and not sin in this area. And how do I do that? I not pay attention to my feelings of cravings. What a logical, a person acting on logic and reason will measure what he needs and limit himself to that, and then find ways to get rid of the cravings from there, such as drinking lots of water. So that's what I want to do. That's gluttony as an example of feelings-oriented decisions. You crave and you just crave and you overeat and you indulge, and that's not wisdom. Number 3, greed. This is another one I know I've been guilty of. Most Americans are, perhaps. It's the longing for material wealth and power. This one is less, I suppose, about flesh and more about the psychology of the mind, but it's definitely about comforts of life, about pride and about power. So now here's the tricky thing about all these things. When you weigh your choices in life with regard to money or wealth, and you toss aside your feelings and selfish passions and use logic and reason alone, you're going to do things a lot differently. You're going to hold off on immediate gratification. You're going to instead invest some of the money. Some of the investments might even be eternal, or simply paying it forward. You might help someone in need. When you go shopping for your own self, you might look for furniture and clothes that, instead of saying I'm awesome and the coolest person in the world and everyone will be jealous, rather a wise person might say, this is comfortable for those I'm going to be interacting with, and I'm not going to offend anybody or make them feel inferior, but it'll be nice and it'll be just right. There's ways to weigh all of that. Anyway, number 4, sloth. Sloth. This one's killing me. It's killing me. This, along with gluttony, sloth, laziness. I don't want to get up and exercise. I don't want to help that friend out. I don't want to. I'm comfortable here in my chair. It's painful to move around. That's sloth. It's a vicious cycle, too. I know this because I'm stuck in it. But I know the two reasons why I'm stuck in it. Number one is obviously I'm focused on other things. I'm busy. I have a career in software development, and I get focused on that. But I do know that that's no excuse, because I can always structure my time. I just haven't been feeling like it. So that's the second reason. Feelings. I feel like staying put. So this was a no-brainer, guys. It's right up there with lust. Sloth is feelings-based decision-making. Number 5. Wrath. Now don't confuse this one with anger. Wrath is not anger. Anger is the feeling. It's not a sin to be angry. There aren't any feelings that are sins, actually. There's only what you do with those feelings that make them sins. Do you fixate on them? If you fixate on your attraction to another person, that's lust. That can be a sin. If you're not married to that person, that's a sin. If you fixate your mind on your frustration with another person, you like a frustration, it leads to resentment. And if you keep that up, you take negative action. At worst case scenario, murder, right? That's called wrath. Classic example of wrath, Star Wars 3. If you haven't seen it, go see it. It's not all just a bunch of nerdiness. It's actually some dramatics, and it demonstrates wrath on an extreme level. Wrath does so much more than make a person crazy. It damages and destroys people's lives and their livelihoods and relationships. So, now here's the thing about wrath. It starts with feelings, right? It ends up being a feelings-based decision, which is foolishness. Now, this is not to say that justice is illogical and passionate. Actually, no. Justice is it's the practical, logical flip side of wrath, right? Wrath says, what you did that one wrong thing to me. I hate you now, and I'm gonna kill you. Next thing you know, the reaction is to blow everything completely out of proportion, and there's blood everywhere. Whereas justice says you are going about doing wrong to people, including me, and so I'm going to teach you that it is wrong and hold you accountable. See, justice plays it cool. It's effective. It contains the emotion, and it acts in the interests of all. That's justice. And it can be difficult to separate anger from justice and not let it turn into wrath. But that's the difference there. Number 6, envy. This one, again, is very typical of our culture, but this is going to be as simple as just the longing to keep up with the Joneses. My friend got a BMW. He has so much fun. Dang it, I'm jealous. Okay, but what if you have no money? You have just enough money to feed your kids. Are you going to sacrifice the kids' food now in order to get that BMW and make yourself happy? That's a feelings-oriented decision-making. Remember that you also have other people who can envy you once you have done the thing that you envied. And so that just leads to everyone running this rat race on treadmills. That is the iPhones and the BMW and the $1 million house. Wisdom, I believe, would say, look, I know there are ways of having fun and enjoying some R&R and even being comfortable without splurging on all these nice things. Spend some time with people. Get a cheap Android instead of an iPhone. I don't need the Apple logo on my phone. Buy a reliable car, not a fast car. that I can get cheap thrills in some other ways. Go to an amusement park. Number 7, pride. Pride as in being proud. Pride says I'm the only one important here, and dang, I'm good. It's kind of like greed in that it's a bit less about the flesh and more about the shamefulness of the mind. I suppose I'm kind of familiar with this one. I've been guilty. It really correlates with selfishness on the whole, but it couples selfishness with lies about oneself. Pride is the enabler of hypocrisy. A person can't see that his actions don't line up with his words if he's proud, right? So why is this an example of feelings-oriented decision-making? Well, a logical, rational person who seeks wisdom has no need to be motivated by pride. He uses facts and the studies of the benefits of the whole rather than the feelings and the benefits of his personal emotional gratification. So, that said, there's a special place for pride, and that is when one takes pride in those he's integrated with. That kind of pride is a different substance altogether. And don't get me wrong, even that kind of pride can be misplaced. I have no doubt in my mind, I have no doubt at all, that there was pride among the soldiers in Nazi Germany. But if wisdom has already determined that the ideologies of the community or the team or the group are sound, the pride in that group might be just as sound. Pride in itself, though, is rarely pride in oneself, though, is rarely ever sound. It's rarely wise. It's rarely wisdom. Confidence is sound. Pride is not. So, as you can see, none of these sins are without feelings or passion-based decision-making. And my motivation for sharing this video is because I want you to think about the controversial issues that are happening in our society today. Ask yourself whether the side you're taking on any issue is really motivated by feelings and passions, or if it's motivated by dry logic and the tangible benefits to everyone else. Like, generally, if the benefits are purely selfish and practical to no one else, chances are the perspective is uniquely feelings or passions driven, as are the motivations of the actions. So, and now as a believer in a creator, as one who believes we were created by a designer, I believe that the creator, genuinely cares that we make rational, wise decisions, choices, and that we should not be motivated solely by our feelings. He created us better than that. He created our minds, our spirits, better than that. Our feelings should send us messages. As hunger tells us we need to eat, but we should not necessarily obey those messages as if we're slaves to those messages. I also believe that having a strong relationship with the Creator through the work that He did by sending His Son, Jesus, to demonstrating a life fully exposed to feelings but yet a life of wisdom despite those temptations and feelings. He who died and was resurrected and ascended to heaven. I believe that now, because of that, if we openly admit our wrong choices, that He is faithful and He's just to forgive us of what we've done and to clean us out from the inside. And I believe that if we want Him dwelling within us, that He'll come. The Holy Spirit will come, and He'll dwell inside of us and teach us to live by the Spirit rather than the body, rather than this stuff. He'll teach us to live by the Spirit man, and specifically by His Spirit, by His guidance. That is New Testament theology right there, guys. That's what the Bible really is trying to say. That's what it's all about. That's what a Christian is. Living by the Spirit. Living in juxtaposition with the flesh by the renewing of our minds. So remember, guys, the two greatest commandments. Number one, love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. Let me say that again. Love the Lord your God with all of your heart. That's yourself. That's your identity. With all of your soul. That's your emotions. With all your mind. That's what you dwell on. That's what you think about. And with all of your strength. That's your body. That's this stuff. And as well as your actions. It's your physical actions. So loving God means you find your identity in Him. You choose to be passionate about Him and deeply in love with Him. Your mind is fixated on Him, and you do everything you can to keep yourself fit, and ready to serve Him however He may need to use you. And so the second commandment, love your neighbor as yourself. Don't be selfish. Don't make selfish decisions. If you see someone in need, help them out. Don't avoid someone because you might get their ick on you, their ickiness on you. Keep your eyes peeled. How can I help someone out today? Just keep your eyes open, and just always look for that opportunity to help people out. I can show people who feel undervalued, and I want to make them feel valuable in God's eyes. The hardest part in doing this is pushing past the feelings-oriented decision-making, being selfish, being uncomfortable. So, I make these videos as much for myself as for anyone. Stay eternally minded, guys. Store up treasures in heaven. We've got a lot to look forward to. Thanks for hearing me out. Bye-bye.